Hello everyone, welcome back to SportsBeat on WOUB. Thank you for tuning in once again. I'm your host for today, Jake Collins, and with me at the desk is
Jack Zwiezinski,
Conor Mallonn,
Simon Lupfer,
Kasey Hill.
Our first episode in a month, and I'm so excited to be back. And to be honest, most sports are either in conference or tournaments play, so we have plenty of great topics for today's episode. Let's check them out. We begin with our opinions and reactions over Ohio University and their formal introduction of new head coach John Hauser. We follow that up with men's and women's basketball, as both teams recently eclipsed the 10-win mark this year. We do that before covering the biggest headlines in professional sports, including NFL playoffs and our 2026 CFP National Champ Predictions. Of course, we end with Upset Watch and our weekly awards. SportsBeat starts right now. Everyone, welcome back to the table. Ladies and gentlemen, it is fantastic to have all of us back. It is 2026, and we are so excited. And, I mean, it's been a while. It's been over a month since we've been together, and we quickly got to talk about the John Hauser introductory press conference. And, guys, I mean, I signed to y'all to watch it. And what was our initial reactions? What was the thing for John Hauser that really stuck out to you?
Oh, I love the fact that he put emphasis on developing players rather than just almost like loaning them out through the transfer portal. That's what I wanted to hear from him. I think you can get a lot out of getting your group of guys and really, really working with them. You can get to know them, kind of build that connection that's already there from him being the coordinator. I just loved seeing that.
And I really think that John Hauser's just an Ohio guy. Yeah. I mean, he's been with Ohio since taking the DC. He's been the DC since 2022, and you can tell that he's incredibly dedicated to this program and like the team as a whole. You've got guys at the Frisco Bowl chanting "Hire Hauser" as he's in the middle of a press conference and in the middle of an interview post game. Like, you can tell that he is someone who is respected not just by the people on the field, but the people off the field.
Yeah, I really loved Hauser's opening statement. It kind of goes back to what you were saying, Jack, about this player-first mentality and really that program mentality. And he kind of throws some shots out there saying that there were some tampering attempts to get some guys to leave, but he was taking pride that nobody left before that bowl game. We talked all last month about the controversy that was going on, and I love that he's been around this program, 40 wins with this program, and he is really a player's guy, and he knows that his players want to play for him.
Yeah, and I love the decision by Slade Larscheid, who of course was in the press conference with him. He was very confident in saying, I wanted to stick in the pipeline, and the trust in seeing that from the bowl game win in Frisco over UNLV, holding an offense like that to only 10 points was a statement to make. So, I mean, I really liked what Larscheid said about John Hauser. But along with you guys, when it came to the players and how much he loves the players, I love the amount of emotion. I mean, there was times he would actually be choked up because of just how honored he is. He even said, I'm very proud to be the head coach. So it's like, when you look at, and I don't want to like completely diss Tim Albin or Brian Smith, but you just didn't see that emotion from them as much as you saw Hauser. So I really think they got a program guy. But when it comes to this, like you mentioned, he bleeds Ohio for the most part. He was a former player at Wittenberg and played on very successful teams. I believe Wittenberg's Division III level football. And I don't know, when it comes to, I guess, the expectations for next year and for Coach Hauser, what is the performance level supposed to be like for him?
I mean, as far as I'm aware, I'm just expecting Ohio football to bring back the same sort of mentality that Hauser talked about in the press conference. I mean, you see the mentality of you want a strong defense that can hold down pretty much any opponent, and then an offense that controls the ball and can keep a good tempo. And they're going to have a pretty good opportunity to do it next season. I mean, we see that Anthony Colandrea hit the transfer portal and is headed to Nebraska, and they're going to play Nebraska week 1. It's going to be fun to take on the same quarterback that we got to take down in the Frisco Bowl because, I mean, he blamed himself in the process of losing the Frisco Bowl, but we know Ohio had his number, so we'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, especially I totally forgot that Colandrea is a Cornhusker now, and it kind of goes back to like the Bradley Weaver situation where, of course, Weaver was from Miami. One of his final games played as a Red Hawk was, of course, the MAC title loss, and then he transferred to Rutgers, and that was the first game, of course, of this year. With Weaver, should have been ejected for targeting. Let's not forget about that. But when it comes to other Ohio football news, and I'm really impressed with the decision to make for Hauser. But when it comes to the transfer portal process, one name that did leave the Ohio Bobcats, and one that, frankly, nobody should be surprised about, is Chase Hendricks. He was the highest ranked recruit from Ohio in the transfer portal, and he is committed to California. He did it on Instagram in his announcements. And what is kind of the expectations, for Chase Hendricks? Because, of course, he was also a guest of ours about sometime several weeks ago in October. What are we expecting from Chase Hendricks in Cali?
I'd love to see him just continue to be one of the highest performing receivers. I mean, we saw him get Bolitnikoff mentions at the end of middle of last season. There's no doubt in my mind that he's going to end up being a high performing receiver no matter where he goes. At this point, it's just who he matches up with at quarterback and how they can utilize him in their system.
And another little tricky thing about it too, Connor, is with the head coaching change, all the drama that's been involved. Of course, Brian Smith did get fired for the professional misconduct. A lot of players are still transferring out. Of course, we just mentioned Chase Hendricks. Rodney Harris II, who's also a wide receiver, is still in the portal. He doesn't have any confirmed options yet. Some players like Nehemiah Dukes have returned. They've withdrawn their transfer portal access. But even then, Ohio is still getting some recruits when we see it. Of course, we already kind of replaced Chase Hendricks with Preston Bowman from Kentucky, who has a similar build. I think he's only an inch smaller, but he's a pound heavier. It's a typical guy that we might see in the slot to replace Hendricks, especially from a program like Kentucky. Even then, we have Cody Raymond from Wisconsin, who's a defensive lineman, and then Tyler Gillison from Michigan State, who's an O-line. So I think you're kind of going to get into that process that OU might be able to get some recruits in. And even with the commitment level for 24/7 Sports, Ohio, I believe, is 6 in recruiting portal. Or the recruiting classes upcoming. So, you lose Mason Williams, you lose Jay Crable, you lose Jalen Thomason. Davian Weatherspoon has also recently just joined the portal. Out of those names, which has hurt the most for the Bobcats for this upcoming season?
I'm going to just go ahead and say Mason Williams right off the bat because, you look at how the offense has operated the last couple of years, and that's now the second tight end that we've seen hit the portal, and the first one to hit the portal before him went up the road to Ohio State and went to a national title game and a nice playoff run. So, Ohio's made a pretty good name for itself at picking up some pretty solid tight ends, and those tight ends have continued to find success. We see like Will Kazmarek is still with Ohio State, so it's no doubt in my mind that that's going to be a big offensive name that we're going to miss, especially because Ohio's really good at using the tight ends, not just in the pass game but in the run game. So it'll be unfortunate to see him go.
Yeah, and Williams was one of the more highly touted picks, especially when you consider that he's from the state of Ohio. And I really felt like Mason Williams was going to be a player to stay maybe 2 or 3 years. And, I guess it is only 2, but for him, he gets to go to the best program, one of the most prestigious programs in all of college football, and definitely the most prestigious in the state. But now for our next category, we are going to talk about OU men's basketball. And, when you think of the start of the season, it was rough, absolutely rough. It was a tough moment for OU men's basketball. There was a lot of questions being thrown around, not only in Athens, but, in newsrooms and the media in terms of just like, what is this team anymore? And now they've won 9 of their last 11 games and have started 4-2 in conference play. Simon, what have we seen from them in the most recent conference games?
Yeah, so the last couple games against Buffalo and Toledo, starting with Buffalo, the Ohio Bobcats, they beat Buffalo 91-80 in the Convo on Saturday. The first half was just offense. There wasn't anything too crazy, but they just kept it close. They trailed 44-47 at the break, but then the second half is where they really turned it up. They opened the second half with a 28-8 run, led by Aiden Hadaway and Jackson Pavletsky. Hadaway had a double-double on 27 points and 10 rebounds. This was a huge game for him, especially after his more frustrating game against UMass the game before. And then Jackson Pavletsky, he had 23 points, 8 assists, and 6 rebounds of his own. He had a super complete game in this one. And, yeah, he was just making plays all over the floor. He was named MAC Player of the Week after this one. All five starters for Ohio in this one scored in the double figures, and the team shot almost 60%. And then the defense in the second half was just lights out. That was a huge difference maker. trailing 3 at the half and then just shutting them out.
And the biggest question for me following that game was, I believe they actually were down 10 points early into the first half or midway through the first half. And it was like, all right, this is just like the Eastern Michigan game. Not as quite severe, but against a tougher opponent like Buffalo, it was like, is Jeff Bowles going to be able to lead this comeback? And I'm just so impressed when it comes to Aiden Hadaway's performance. I think at peak performance, Hadaway could probably be the most talented player on this team who can consistently give you double-doubles. The problem is, are we going to see him play at that level consistently? What do you guys think about that?
I think it's good to see him kind of open up after the UMass game, especially with how he performed not just on offense but on defense. And you got to give credit to the entire starting roster at this point, because I mean, you look at AJ Sheldon, who was putting life and limb on the line throughout most of that game. You saw at one point Buffalo is throwing it up from the baseline, and Aiden Hadaway catches the ball at the half court, tosses it to Pavletsky, hard on his back, and you look at someone who's willing to just throw it all out there for something as simple as a turnover, and it's really just impressive to see so many different players putting up that sort of effort, especially to take down an opponent that was not projected to beat Ohio. But I mean, you look at how Ohio performs consistently in the Convo, and they just deliver to the highest degree.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about Buffalo, and Buffalo is I think that going into that game, they were like a 13-2 team record-wise. So, I mean, it is a very talented team within the MAC who hasn't had the strongest start, but it's definitely a quality opponent. And speaking of quality opponents, Simon, we got to go to the next game because, I mean, the Bobcats, like you mentioned, offensively strong, but defensively in this next game, they just couldn't match that second half performance like they did against the Bulls.
Yeah, so on Tuesday, Ohio traveled up to Toledo and fell 101-85 in Savage Arena. They were second place in the MAC, a lone position, second place in the MAC coming into this game, and yeah, just could not stop Toledo in this one. The two main stories here from this game: Javen Simmons returned to Toledo, where he transferred to OU from, and then Jeff Bowles, his continued struggle against this Rockets team. So as far as Simmons goes, he really led the way for this Bobcats team, and he made a big statement against his former team. He had 21 points, and he was a big part of OU's 22-9 lead out of the gate. And yeah, I mean, we saw him getting emotional out there. We saw him hitting some sellies. We saw him towing the line a little bit to maybe like a tech, but the refs kind of let him go, and yeah, he played lights out. The Bobcats team overall shot over 60% from the field and 57% from three in the first half. But overall in the day, Toledo shot almost 60% and just shut down OU in the second. Toledo their offense just kept going. OU's stopped, and OU could not stop Toledo's offense. So now we're looking at Jeff Bowles, who is 1-12 against the Toledo Rockets. Ohio is 1-12 against Toledo under Bowles, and they haven't won in Toledo for almost 10 years. It's been over 3,600 days since the Bobcats have gotten a win in Toledo. And this was the first game in Bowles' tenure that Ohio gave up 100 or more to a MAC opponent. So there is a Toledo problem for Jeff Bowles here, and it needs to get figured out.
Especially when you consider last year, I believe Toledo was the team that eliminated Ohio from the MAC tournament as well in basketball. And kind of just what is the table's reaction to it? Because, I mean, when it comes to the best teams in the programs, or you're at least expecting your coach to beat the best teams in the conference. This is a clear cut case that he can't do it against Toledo. I mean, it's been nearly 10 years since he's beat Toledo in Savage Arena. I mean, what is our reactions to it?
Is Toledo consistently at the top?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so then it would kind of make sense. Is it just that he can't beat top teams, or that he can't beat Toledo?
It's just been a thing against Toledo, but the thing is, Toledo in the past decade or so has been a top 3 team within the MAC.
So it's just continuously getting worse from both ends.
I mean, when you consider
there was some coach lore between Bowles and Toledo's former head coach in terms of like them working together, and then he left for Toledo and then proceeded to just have Bowles' number for the better part of a decade. and then left, and now Toledo still has his number. So it's just kind of an ongoing problem. The question is now sort of how do we get over the hump? And I think looking at the rest of the MAC slate, Ohio has every opportunity to take pretty much every single one of these games if they can get their stuff in order is really the best way I can phrase that, especially when you're going up against a team like Ball State, who is going to probably be the best opportunity for everyone to get their rhythm set.
Yeah, absolutely. You put it lightly. Ball State is the worst team in the MAC.
Terrible.
And yes,
Terrible.
absolutely. So Simon, kind of give us more of some more information about the Cardinals in terms of what they've done this year.
Yeah, so coming off of this Rockets loss, OU is going into this Ball State game, winning 9 of its last 11. They're going to be 5th in the MAC coming into this game. Ball State, they are winless, 0-5 in the MAC. OU has won their last 8 against the Cardinals, including the last time they went to Muncie. They won in overtime, 84-79. That was 2 seasons ago. And, this Cardinals team has a couple guys who are really legit. Davion Hill and Armani Ziegler, they lead the way for Ball State. They have 11.6 and 10.7 points a game, respectively. And then former Bobcat, Elmore James, sound familiar, anybody?
Yeah.
He is going to start. He has started every game for the Cardinals this year, and he's going to start against Ohio. And he's been adding 8.2 points a game for the Cardinals this year. So that'll be an interesting matchup to keep an eye on. But if there is a game to get your footing right and just, feel good heading into the rest of MAC play, this has to be the one that OU gets right and makes a statement.
Yeah, and even then, if they don't do it for this game, they have another opponent who sits near the bottom of the MAC standings in NIU Huskies. What does that matchup entail for next Tuesday?
Yeah, so looking ahead, January 20th, the Bobcats, they're going to host NIU, and they also sit near the bottom. Like you said, they're 3rd from last. They're 1-4 in the MAC. OU, they've won their last 5 against NIU, including last January when they visited the Convo. The Bobcats took that one by 38. So they should be feeling good about the history of this matchup. Something that I'm kind of keeping my eye on, the Huskies, they've only given up 80 or more in one game so far in MAC play, whereas Ohio, they have scored and given up 80 or more in their last 3 MAC games. So the OU offense, they have been producing, but also their defense has not really stepped up to the challenge so far. So that's something that I'm keeping an eye on. And then, yeah, if there's a guy to watch out for the Huskies, it'd be Mekhi Valentine. He averages 13.5 a game and nearly 6 rebounds a game for the Huskies, so that'll be a good challenge.
Yeah, lock him down, and you're more than likely to get your 5th or even 6th MAC victory of the year. So for the Bobcats, they are tied for 4th in the MAC basketball standings. They have a 10-8 overall record, which is much better considering what we remember in those first 10 games or so, where they were like a 2-8 team or a 3-7 team. So it's going to be interesting to see how Ohio continues this momentum within MAC play because, yes, you just lost to Toledo, but you played very well against Toledo offensively. So now to go into OU women's basketball, we're going to throw it to Kasey. And Kasey, this has been a fun squad when you consider everything that we've seen from the women's basketball team in the last 5 years. This team is very competitive in the MAC. What have we seen recently?
Yeah, recently we're doing a lot better, and I'm a freshman, so I haven't been here to suffer through it the way you guys have. So I feel like I'm getting a bad representation of how this usually goes. My bad.
You're good. That caught me so off guard. I was like, wait a minute. Okay.
If there's anything you need to hear, Kasey, is this team did finish, I believe, 6-23 last year.
Okay,
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard that.
Not a good team.
So for them to have this 10-4 start is very good. Bob Bolden has done a great job with these transfers, and specifically in these last 2 games, they've handled them pretty well. Let's start with the Eastern Michigan game.
Yeah, so Bobcats had a huge win over Eastern Michigan, and I say huge as in 96-87. That's high scoring for women's basketball. That's high scoring for college basketball, I would say. That was here in Athens, the Convo. I would have loved to be there. That sounded really entertaining. We were all on Christmas break. But 8 different scores in that game. 5 of those 8 were in the double figures. 39 points from the bench, which is tremendous. You think about the depth of this bench and how it helps the team, how it helps the system. Bailey Tabling was highest scorer with 21 points. We talk about her time and time again here. And 16 fast break points for the Bobcats. So the energy is way up this season.
Yes, and the offensive efficiency is definitely up. And so far, I mean, defensively in that second game or in this next game we're going to talk about, they stepped up pretty big against Buffalo as well. How did they do against the Bulls?
Yeah, so they'll let the Bulls score half of what they let Eastern Michigan score half on them. So definitely the defense, like you said. Buffalo women's basketball. We talk about Buffalo a lot here. I feel like football, before break, their women's basketball team is not great as the other times we talk about them. They're 2-13 right now, but that's not making this game any less exciting. The Bobcats won 71-59 on the road, and Bailey again top scorer with 14. Danny Scully tied that as well. Buffalo had 21 fast break points and 17 off turnovers. So you said the defense got a little better. I think they can do even better after that. If it wasn't for those points, they scored nothing, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess I feel like I know the answer to this already, but when it comes to the best player within these previous two games, what was the name that stuck out to you?
I think Bailey again. She's been in Athens. She was a freshman. She won freshman All-MAC this season. She's averaging 13.7 a game. She's, I think, 5'10". But I read her stats. All you see, season high rebound, season high steal, career high block. She's just a hard worker. She's just a powerhouse, and she's really entertaining to watch.
And with her being a younger player, you're definitely starting to see the development come in. I mean, Bob Bolden, experienced head coach. Yes, it's been shaky the past couple years or so, but he's an experienced head coach, and he could develop players if they stick around. And Tabling was one of the stars last year. She was really the superstar for how young she was. Yeah. And now this year she gets another year of development. She's becoming more efficient. And then you sprinkle in the recruits, and that's something that we mentioned time and time again last year is sell yourself as a program that could just loan in transfers and just bring in these transfers from higher programs. Of course, Bella Rinaldo has been fantastic this year, just to name one of them. And that's what they needed. They needed a complete reset. They've had some players on the bench who were starters last year, and you just needed to kind of look at them and say, you need replaced. And it's worked out because now they're a 10-win team and could be potentially competing in the MAC. So what is going to be the next step for this team, from anybody at the table, on what they should do going forward?
I mean, I think from now it's really pinning all your player strengths, kind of finding out their weaknesses, and really just developing them. I mean, we've seen, as you mentioned, Bailey Tabling's development, and then, I mean, we brought in Bella Rinaldo. Got to mention Antonisia Moultrie, who I just am looking right now and scored 11 points in 13 minutes against Buffalo on 100% shooting. She did not. She went 5 of 5 from the field and 1 of 1 from the charity stripe.
Wow.
So I mean, I think it's that just really pinning and developing these players and bringing in some more productive supporting cast when you can here and there to kind of off the bench give your stars a little bit of a breather here and there so that they're not kind of just constantly going and going, because they're going to get gassed eventually. I mean, that's just how it works.
Yeah, and especially if you have more players from the bench to kind of be like an 8 or 10 player rotation, it really helps you out in the long stretch, like you mentioned, later in the season or just in every single game. So, Kasey, I mean, what are the previews for this next game? It looks like they have a match against the Huskies again as well.
What'd you want to say?
Oh, I was just going to say that, I mean, you were going to talk about it, Jake. The Kent State and Northern Illinois games are just going to be great opportunities for OU to get their feet set and throw down, really, because, I mean, they're not very quality teams.
I totally forgot. Yes, Kent State is tonight at this time of this recording. And, so kind of, I mean, we're not going to be able to cover it since by the time of this episode, that game will be over. But for the games going forward for the Bobcats in terms of the next week or so, what do we see in this upcoming Huskies matchup?
Yeah, so that's going to be Northern Illinois, also coming to the Convo this Saturday, the 17th. NIU's 3-12 right now. They are playing Toledo tonight, so things are going to shift slightly there. They aren't even averaging 60 points a game. The way these Bobcats are rolling right now, NIU should continue to be a confidence boost and a stat boost for Ohio. NIU does have a top scorer. Her name is Nevaeh Wingate. She's got 12.4 per game, but can't really call that top scorer. I don't know. BG then after that. Ohio's traveling to BG next week, Wednesday the 21st. BG is 9 of 6 right now. They will see Western Michigan and Miami, Ohio before that game on Wednesday. So things, again, will shift there. But Paige Kohler is going to be the player to watch out for against BG. She's a junior guard, has the most points. She averages the most points per game, most field goals made, and most threes made.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Ohio does now for these next couple matchups. Of course, starting with what is for us tonight against the Golden Flashes. But, I mean, when you consider everything, what they've done in the conference so far, they're tied for first place. And it's probably been a couple years since they've said that. I think it's probably the last time since they, of course, made it to the tournament, I believe is in 2019 or so. So, I mean, Bob Bolden has this team back, and it's the transfers doing it. And it's going to be exciting to see what they do for the rest of the season. So, I mean, transfers have done a really good job. But for now, more news within Ohio sports. We're actually going to bring up our first spring sport on our episode. And on January 8th, the university released their 2026 baseball schedule for the Bobcats, as the baseball team will begin their season on February 13th against Murray State. Their first conference series is going to be in March 6th through 8th against the Northern Illinois Huskies. And, of course, that coveted matchup on April 10th to 12th in Oxford against the reigning MAC champs and the rival Miami Redhawks. And, you know, this was a series where Miami won the series split last year 2-1, including where Miami scored 2 runs in the 8th to win 6-5 on that final game. So I guess for the people at the table, what are we expecting for the Bobcats this upcoming season in terms of win totals or improvement from last year?
I'll just start it off, and I will say the defense has to be better, and I'm expecting the defense to be better. I mean, this defense sucked last year. We sat at this table week after week and talked about how the bullpen couldn't get it done. Sometimes the starting pitching could get it done. Most days they couldn't. There was no fielding behind them. It was terrible, and I think that was not like a secret, and that was not a surprise to this program. So they had to have focused on that in the offseason. I'm expecting this defense to just be night and day difference this season.
I think the biggest impact this year is, of course, there is a new head coach in charge for the baseball team. They hired Andrew C. from Liberty. I believe this was going to be sometime in late May is when they did it, when all the other teams were playing postseason baseball, but the Bobcats weren't. So Andrew C. is from Liberty, and he's been specialized, and this is the most exciting part, I think, for Bobcat fans. He is specialized as a pitching coach. Yeah. He's also a former Bobcat himself, and the last 2 decades, he's been through Power 4 programs like Clemson, Duke, Ohio State, and he's really been leaving his mark. And I think this is exactly what they need, is a defensively minded head coach who's specialized in pitching, especially like you consider, or like you mentioned, Simon, defensively they were the worst team. Pitching-wise, they were the worst team in the conference. This is going to be interesting to see. This is probably the most galvanizing moment of this baseball squad, and you include the transfer. We see Hayden Blosser from Ohio State. We see A.J. Dallmeyer and Colin Nymaster from Lake Erie College, Hunter Brooks from Wright State, Aiden Cook from Xavier. I mean, they're just continuing to bring in all these new names, and defensively they just got to be better. So when it comes to the schedule, what series on that are we most excited about?
It's the Miami series. Mm-hmm. I'm like nobody's gonna keep that a secret. Like the Bobcats were close to winning this series against the MAC champ Miami last year, but it was Game 3 in the bottom of the 8th that they dropped that series, right? So I mean they're right there, and that was with all of these problems that we talked about last year. So I think that one's circled every year, but that one's maybe circled and starred and underlined this year because it means something.
And then not only is that, I would also agree that is the top series, as most people around the table are shaking their heads, yes. But I really like this Dayton series as well, especially when you consider that it's a home-and-home series, but in each location, both teams will get to host twice against each other. So, and the matchups that we saw, it was just a one-game home-and-home each against the Flyers. And the Flyers won both games by the scores of 10-9 and 10-8. So I think that's another thing, like you mentioned. If you just improve just a little bit defensively, you could win these games 7-8, or even just 7-3. If you just lower that number, it's just going to be so much better for not only your fielders, because there was probably the reason why they had so many errors, because Ohio was the easiest team to hit against. So there's a lot of things to improve upon, and I'm excited to see what the baseball team is, especially when you have a fresh face and plenty of fresh names as well, because there's also 7 freshmen from this recent recruiting class that are going to be added to the pitching and the bullpen as well. But to go to the next segment of our show, NFL playoffs. Oh, man, this is always an exciting time. I mean, it is when you either stay alive or you go home, and we saw some fantastic football from this previous weekend. I mean, we saw games where LA Rams beat the Panthers. We saw the Bears squeak it out against the Packers. Bills beat the Jaguars barely, and then the Niners beat the Eagles. I mean, Connor, what was the main storylines from this weekend that just caught your eye and you couldn't ignore?
There were so many good ones, Jake. Come on now, don't make me pick one. I mean, the biggest ones. I mean, I've got the list. We'll start Saturday first, and we'll kick it off with Rams Panthers because I mean, we look at the Rams, and you're 12-5. You just barely make it out like to the top of your division, and then you're getting cooked by the like barely 500 Panthers who like scraped their way over the finish line. It's unbelievable. I mean, there are a lot of problems with that team, and I think there are going to be more problems that are about to be exposed, especially when they go on the road to Chicago. Because when you look at the Rams are not good on the road this season. 5-4 on the road, especially when you look at some of the toughest losses they've had. I mean, they lost to the Seahawks, they lost to the Falcons, and they're going into one of the most difficult places to play, which is Chicago, in the winter, in the playoffs, with a team that is incredibly hot, especially after Caleb Williams did some things that we'll have to get into later. I'm sorry, Jake. There are things that we'll talk about with the Panthers, but, I mean, the cold is not going to do Stafford any favors whatsoever when they go to Chicago. And we'll have to see if they can keep it together.
I guess that is the point that I kind of forgot to consider because, I mean, for anybody who follows us on our Instagram, you see our Super Bowl predictions. The most selected team were the LA Rams, and it was pretty easy who the favorite was out of the entire SportsBeat chat. And when it came to that, I guess I never considered that second-round matchup, weather-wise, not in their favor against Chicago.
And Matt Stafford is traditionally not great on the road, especially in the outdoors. He's been a home man in Detroit where they've had a dome for the cold weather. And we've got to talk about some serious issues with the Rams when it comes to injuries. No Jahan Dotson has been a massive issue on the defensive front. And now you've got Matt Stafford dealing with an index finger injury. You've got 8 different red flags blaring, and you're going into Chicago with, like, an unbelievably red-hot Chicago Bears.
Yeah, and I guess I'll lead the way for this next game because as a Packers fan, this was an absolute brutal watch. I mean, it was unreal, the fact that Matt LaFleur goes into halftime 21-6. And, yes, you lose a little bit of momentum because Brandon McManus misses his first kick, and it's like, okay, well, he'll only miss one, right?
Sure.
And then, of course, I mean, it's been the storyline all year from the Bears. You just can't beat them. No. You can knock them down. They will get right back up, and they'll just keep on swinging. Caleb Williams, I think.
Macho Man and his miracle curse.
And he reminds me a lot of, like, prime Rodgers. The way he could just move on the run, the way he could escape the pockets when the pass rush is just terrible. He does need to clean up in terms of the ball protection, the interceptions, and whatnot, but Matt LaFleur, if you are somehow watching this, which you're probably not.
He could be, though. You never know.
Yeah, talk to him, Jake.
He could be tuning into SportsBeat weekly.
Talk to him, Jake.
Matt LaFleur is a big sports fan.
In my opinion, you have one more year left to figure out if you are the long-term coach for the Packers again. And, yes, those first couple years were fantastic, but these last 4 years, I'm tired of seeing this team be the 7th seed, and I'm tired of seeing this team get bounced in the first round unless they play the Cowboys.
Jake Collins just single-handedly put Matt LaFleur on the hot seat, folks.
He calls out Matt LaFleur, stares into the camera, and issues a buddy, if you can't lock in, you're done.
That is the ultimatum that I have been waiting for.
Now,
oh, my gosh.
Of course, he actually did have a conversation with the president, and he hasn't been fired yet, so I'm guessing he's good. But I'm just saying, I feel like his seat's getting warmed up because this was supposed to be the year, I think, where it was like, all right, they're going to compete for the North again. And then the Bears came out of nowhere, and they took it from him. And now Ben Johnson said some crazy stuff post-game. Now, the thing is, he loves the rivalry like that.
He does.
Ben Johnson's been like that since he's been in Detroit. So if he's doing that as the head coach for Chicago, I mean, that's what Chicago needed, and it's worked out perfectly. But for the other series, I mean, this Bills-Jags game was insane as well. I mean, I feel sad for Trevor Lawrence and the Jags, but I mean, this Bills team is just way too talented and way too fun.
A little Josh Allen hero ball.
Yeah.
Come on
Yeah.
now, like it's exactly what the people want.
I
mean,
love him.
when you go for 273 on 28 of 35, like that, 6 players with multiple receptions against a Jags defense that has been playing really well towards the end of the season. But you got to get the ball moving, like in the run game, especially when you're going to Denver against a really good Broncos defense. And Jack pointed this out to me earlier today that the Broncos have not hosted a playoff game in a decade. That place is going to be
The atmosphere,
ballistic.
The atmosphere at Mile High is going to be incredible.
I would love. I have some Broncos fans in the family, and they are like beyond ecstatic to see that this team make a playoff run. But I mean, when you look at the Bills Jags game specifically, there are some things that I really need to point out, especially with the Jags, because there are some people in the front office that are going to have a hard time finding a job soon, especially when you look at how the Browns have kind of been able to fleece them for a ton of stuff here. Because when you look at how Greg Newsome plays on the last play of the Bills-Jags playoff game, you have got the game on the line. The Bills need a field goal to win, and you've got a receiver 6 yards down the field with Greg Newsome with his pants down around his ankles. You cannot have that in a playoff game.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable stuff.
All right, so now for the back half of the NFL games. And, of course, we saw the Super Bowl champions, Philadelphia Eagles, go down to the Niners. And there is another headline from that game I want to talk about. We'll wait for a later segment. But, I mean, this Eagles team they definitely had they were vulnerable at points. And even then, Niners lost their best tight end, George Kittle, to a terrible injury. He's going to be out for the rest of the year, no doubt. But what do we think of this Niners team? Or is it a bigger story that the Eagles were the team that kind of collapsed under pressure at Lincoln Financial Field?
This was one of the games on the agenda of the first round of the playoffs that I would call a stoppable force meets a movable object. Because this was really the game of who's going to break down first. Because the 49ers have been injury-riddled all season. They have problems on top of problems that are going to be a big issue for them for years to come. The Eagles, on the other hand, have a couple of glaring problems that all reared their head all at once in the first round of the playoffs. And, the biggest problem got fired, and we'll talk about that later.
Yes, we will. But in terms of, all right, so we'll go into the divisional round games. When it comes to the matchups, from anybody at the table, what is your favorite matchup out of the 4 games in the NFL divisional round?
Ooh. I like all 4 games. I think this is a great slate coming up. The one that I'm probably going to be looking at the most, though, is that Broncos-Bills game. Yeah. I mean, like you mentioned, first playoff game in Denver in a decade, Mile High. The Bills receiving core is already a little shaky, and they just lost Tyrell Shaver with an ACL injury because apparently he played the back half of their last game with a torn ACL.
Yep.
And I mean, you're going to need to rely on the run game and Josh Allen hero ball, which I mean, he's used to playing, but against a defense like the Broncos, I just don't know if they're going to be able to get that run game going. That's kind of what I'm looking at the most. I'm excited for that game.
As much as I love Josh Allen playing hero ball, he is not going to be able to play a bunch of hero ball against Jonathan Cooper and Cortland Sutton with a group of AI-generated receivers.
He was in the 10 3 times last game. And got checked out in the injury tent.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
I'm a little worried.
He's gonna get hurt.
And then for the other games, of course, we have the Pats-Texans, which is probably going to be much like what we saw from in the first round, where it's super low scoring. Defenses take control.
CJ's locked in.
Really, it feels like the first team to score 17 points wins that game. I mean, that's really what it's feeling like. And same thing for the Seahawks 49ers, where in Week 18 for the winner take all for the NFC and the NFC West division, it was pretty much the same thing. And then that Bears-Rams game, which is going to be electric. That's going to be
Oh,
a
yeah.
That's
battle.
going to be a good matchup.
But now to go into our next segment, Read and React. This is where we quickly dive into the biggest news in sports, and we read and react to the biggest headlines and hottest topics. And we got to start going back to that Eagles game. A.J. Brown and Nick Sirianni, the head coach for the Eagles, had a little heated exchange on the sideline. I mean, what do we think about that here at the table?
You know, I get, and like, you know, Sirianni explained after that him and A.J. Brown are both very emotional people. They've experienced every emotion together. I think you got to take into account the fact that the stakes are higher because of playoffs, and they just won the Super Bowl last year. I mean, they're expected to go far, and they've been really shaky. But I think if they can't get a lid on whatever's going on between the two of them, it will become a problem for the team, and quickly.
Yeah, I would like to read into this a lot, but I think I might disagree with you here, Jack, just because I feel like we have kind of historically seen this from A.J. Brown and Sirianni, but there's been a back and forth in the past, and all of these kind of the unraveling kind of completed itself in the playoffs, but I think it'll get cooled down.
The problem that I have that's hard to believe with that, and yes, we've seen it, and I think that's the biggest problem. We've seen it so much from A.J. Brown showing his displeasure on the sideline. They could be winning a game by like 25 points against a divisional opponent, and he's crashing out because he has like 2 touches. Yeah. And that is an offense where you have to feed everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got Saquon, you got Jalen Hurts, you got Devontae Smith, you got Dallas Goedert, who's turned out to be one of the best, more high-scoring tight ends in the league.
Mm-hmm.
A.J. Brown's just got to realize there's going to be days where you're the number 1 options. There's going to be days where you're the number 5th option. Yeah, and that's just the reality of the situation.
They've got enough weapons. I mean, he just kind of has to let that sink in.
Yeah, and then it comes to the point, at what point does it just escalate to the point where Devontae Smith says something to A.J. Brown, and then it gets really bad, or Dallas Goedert, you know? I'm just worried what it can be in the future. And I like what Sirianni said. His relationship with Brown is special. Mm-hmm. And they go through every emotion, and it's a competitive matchup. It's a playoff game. We understand that. But the problem was A.J. Brown showed his displeasure and then played worse after that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So now staying in, I guess, Pennsylvania news, but for the other pro team, Mike Tomlin has resigned after 19 years as the Steelers head coach. We're talking nearly 200 wins, 13 playoff appearances, 9 AFC North titles, 2 conference titles, and a Super Bowl against the Cardinals in 2009. And Simon is fist pumping because now he's no longer the head coach for the Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like as a Browns fan, this feels like a little bit of like half of a weight off of our shoulders in the offseason. We go through a lot, all right? And now we don't have to worry about Mike Tomlin. And I think this was the right move, honestly, because if he doesn't resign now, if you don't get rid of him now, how much longer do you give him? Yes, he has won. Yes, he's won it all. It's been pushing 20 years, and you've lost 8-9 straight playoff games. Like, it's not enough to go over 500. You have to produce wins when it matters.
Yeah, I think the Browns have won a playoff game more recently
right.
than the Steelers,
That's right.
which is just ridiculous. Because, I mean...
Against who?
The Steelers.
I mean, I say Aaron follows him, and then you just start a rebuild after that.
The thing is, I think the whole situation with Tomlin's contract is, I think teams would have to trade for Tomlin.
He's still contracted, but since he stepped down and wasn't fired, teams would have to make a trade for him, which is very rare to see. I could see him making the transition into commentating and into more of like the broadcast world, which honestly, as a Browns fan, you know, Mike Tomlin, Steelers
he's not on the sideline.
Yes, he is so entertaining.
He is.
I would love to see him in kind of that TV world. I feel like he's got the mind for it. He's got the one-liners for it. You know, that's what I want to see from him, but I could very easily see him just taking a year, stepping back, and then jumping right back into a coaching job.
And then the last thing about this, the last question that this brings up that we probably won't be able to get into now is, how did Zach Taylor become the only AFC
We'll give it a
coach?
minute. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, Bengals fans,
diabolical.
like, where are you at right now? You have to be reeling.
So now the expectations next year is
Oh,
you
man.
got to win the division now. I mean,
He
there is
has
no
to. He
question.
has
There's going to
to.
be 3 new head coaches in the systems. There was even a little joke there between the Ravens and the Steelers that Harbaugh and Tomlin might just
trade.
flip.
No.
Which
Think
would
about
be a
it.
disaster.
They're both like semi-Cleveland related. You just got to get them to both work as, get one hired as the offensive coordinator and the other hired as the head coach. Some real shenanigans.
So now for our next topic, and we still have a couple categories that we wanted to bring up for Read and React, but we'll have to go on to the next section, and it's going to be the NCAA Football Natty. Indiana, number 1, undefeated. I mean, this is an unbelievable squad. They will take on 10th ranked Miami, but the most interesting thing, this is being played at Miami Gardens, Florida, where the Dolphins and the Hurricanes play. So this is practically a home game for the Hurricanes. So who do we got? What's our predictions for the Natty? This is going to be next Monday as well.
Indiana all the way.
All the way.
Yep.
I think this is going to be a clean sweep of the table going Indiana.
All right, well.
We got 24-14
Oh.
scores.
I was about to say,
Give Heisman Doza some respect.
I think
I
I'm
saw-
going to
34-10.
I saw he
34-10.
has.
I was thinking 34 too. I'm thinking like 34-21 maybe.
I saw he has 8 touchdowns in the playoffs compared to his 5 incompletions,
that.
and that's just ridiculous.
That's like the third
Indy's
game
O
he's done it
line
this
has been
season.
great.
I mean, the 3 dudes he's throwing to are just unguardable. I mean,
Oh, they're
Omar
great.
Cooper Jr., Elijah Surratt, Charlie Becker, those dudes just get open, and it's one of them. And it's unbelievable to think that this is what they call a team of misfits. I mean, there's only 7 blue chip prospects, which is 4th and 5-star players. But it just shows that players from the transfer portal, players that are experienced at other programs, that's worth way more than your top 5, top
Than
10
your
picks.
star.
Yes, absolutely. More than your star caliber. Because Mendoza was a 3-star, played at Cal. In fact, if you remember, Cal lost to Miami by only a single point last year when Mendoza was the quarterback for Cal, and that was against Miami. And that was one of the best games we saw all year. So, I mean, I'm not surprised that you guys all said Miami or Indiana for this game.
Got to give credit to Miami, though.
Yeah.
I mean, their run has just been incredible.
And to your point, Jake, I mean, I think in this new era of college football we're seeing that blueprint of experience paying off because look at these 2 teams that are playing. They've both got veteran transfer quarterbacks. They've got veterans across the board. Miami, obviously, a little more on the talent heavy side, and Indiana not so much. But yeah, that experience the last 2 years, really since the playoff has expanded, has proven to be a winning formula.
Yeah, and you could even throw in Ole Miss, who Miami just beat, with Trinidad Chambliss, who was a Division II player for most of his career. And it's just interesting. I just love to see the more veteran presence. And I love to hear a team be called the Misfits. And a team historically going into this year had the most losses in college football history. Now could finish the year 16-0 and win a national title against their opponent's home field. It's just insane to think about. But when it comes to now our next segment, we're going to go on to NCAA men's basketball. And we're in the middle of January. We already kind of brought it up with OU basketball, how everyone is in conference play. The same is said for every major conference in D1. Simon, what were some of the biggest wins or most impressive storylines that you saw from basketball this past week?
Yeah, I'm excited to get you guys involved in this one because there were some big upsets that I kind of want to hear you sound off on. But first one, Saturday, Wisconsin, they upset number 2 ranked Michigan, who was undefeated at the time. Badgers won that one 91-88, and this came just a few days after Michigan had just squeaked out a 2-point win over unranked Penn State.
I was so mad.
Yeah, so for the first 10 plus games of their season, Michigan was plus 34.5 in their point margin per game. And then they just squeak out that 2-point win, show a little bit of a sign of mortality, and then lose all of a sudden to Wisconsin. So what was more surprising to you all in this game? Was it Wisconsin's offensive outburst, or was it Michigan's defensive meltdown, given what we've seen from them all season?
I think it was just kind of a great opportunity for Wisconsin to get hot and capitalize on Michigan kind of going cold, especially because you see in college basketball there are so many times where a team will play incredibly well non-conference, hit the conference schedule, and then just kind of fizzle out. And to see Wisconsin sort of capitalize on that one little falter out of Michigan is just a great thing.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like Michigan was due. Like you mentioned,
I agree.
Penn State game was close. Michigan is still a worthy program. We
Yeah.
saw what they did against, I believe it was Gonzaga and maybe North Carolina. There was a invitational where they beat every single team by 30 or 40 points. So they're definitely a team more worthy of a top 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. But I mean, that was one undefeated team that went down. But Iowa State, that's another team that we saw lose that were undefeated.
Oof.
What-
Yeah.
what
So
was that?
just Tuesday, the newly dubbed number 2 team in the nation, Iowa State, they got dominated by Kansas. The Jayhawks took that one 84-63, and this was just the 3rd game all year that the Cyclones didn't win by 10 or more. The only 2 other games was they beat Iowa, tough opponent by 4, beat St. John's by 1. Their only loss was their 3rd game this season that they didn't win by +10. So Kansas coming into this game, they were 1-2 in the Big 12. That was their worst Big 12 start since 2006. And in year 23 for Bill Self, where we've seen in the last 2 years just a decline, where 16 out of his first 20, he won the conference. These last 3, it's been looking like, it's just worse and worse and worse. But then they get this win. Did Kansas need this win to keep their season alive?
I think so. I think when you consider the fact that they just went on a little cold streak themselves, and it's always beneficial when you're the home team. And I think that's the biggest advantage when it comes to these power conference games, especially what you see in the SEC and the Big 12. With this being a Big 12 example, is even the more historic programs, and if you're the home team, you got the advantage. It's going to be the loud crowd, especially inviting an undefeated team like that. And it's another thing like Michigan. Iowa State was due for a loss, and Iowa State still going to be a top 3 seed in the NCAA tournament, no doubt. But when it comes to the remaining undefeated teams, now we only see 3 teams in college basketball that are undefeated. One of them being the Miami, or 4 teams, one of them being the Miami Redhawks, and then 2 more are from programs that we don't expect from. I mean, Nebraska and Vanderbilt. What is your take on Vanderbilt and Nebraska this year? Are they legitimate?
I'm gonna talk a little bit about Vanderbilt here in a minute. I think, yeah, I mean, these are surprising teams, and especially those 2. Nebraska, the way that they're playing right now, you could see them grabbing a 2, maybe a 1 seed in the tournament because when you look around, like, they have a real shot at beating the Michigans and the Purdues of the Big Ten in the Big Ten tournament. So if they were to, in March, when it's all said and done, do something like that, I don't see how they're not a 1 seed. And I think they're playing super well, and they deserve their number 8 ranking.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I mean, for a team like Nebraska who, I mean, they had that big win against Michigan State a couple weeks ago, and I'm just like, I mean, they're becoming legitimate. I mean, this is a program that doesn't even have a tournament win, and it's just like, this is the year now. This is the year where they could compete in the Big Ten title tournament and now probably be a top 3 to 4 seed as well. I mean, they could easily be a 1 seed because of how great the Big Ten is. Now, they do have to play Michigan and Illinois and Purdue here in the next month or so. So those are going to be the matchups that really tell the tale. So now to go into the pro sports for pro basketball. This has been a surprising first half of the season for the Cavaliers, and they find themselves in a play-in spot rather than near the top of the East where we saw them last year. I mean, Jack, what's been the problem with the Cavs in the first half of the year?
Okay, so right now, currently, they're sitting 22-19. I'm looking right now, they're actually up with 6.5 minutes left in the first quarter. They're up 7 on the Sixers at the time of us recording. The biggest thing that I think a lot of people are kind of not taking into account is with the record, is that last year's beginning to the season was an anomaly. But I think the biggest thing that we really need to focus on there's really about 2. Say the injury, because the Cavs have had so many players out. That's just, it's part of the game. I'd rather have it out, kind of get it out of the way now than later. But the second thing is, it's time to admit the trade for Lonzo Ball did not pan out for this team. He was brought on to help scoring, help his assisting. He's averaging 5 5 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists in 22 minutes, and is being filtered out of rotations.
Yeah,
he didn't even play against the Jazz when they played. I mean, and it was DNP coach's decision. It's just not working. And then trading Isaac Okoro, who is one of their best perimeter defenders, we are seeing the kind of effects of that in a team that can't quite stop these teams as well as they were able to. I mean, you also got to take into account DeAndre Hunter has been in a bad slump since the last time we talked. He was putting up 20 consistently. Now he's averaging 13 points a game. He's dropped off. His defense has kind of slipped a little bit. His rebounding slipped. And I saw something saying he kind of wanted out of Cleveland almost.
Yeah, and Jack, I'm just going to say, like, I think it is about time that we looked at the numbers for Lonzo because we had talked at the beginning of the season, like, okay, yeah, this was a good decision, and he was playing all right, but I don't think that trade was necessarily a win, and it's tough because even with the Hunter stats, like, this team has the pieces, and we saw all the pieces there last year, and there's like some slight differences this year, but it's frustrating when the team, the core, the coach, all is the same, and you're regressing. You're not progressing.
Mm-hmm. I think, I mean, that the trade for Lonzo just didn't work, and I think we're starting to see. I mean, there was I can't remember exactly what game it is, but we're starting to see a little bit of the downside almost of Kenny Atkinson's willingness to experiment with rotations on the fly, because I believe I saw a lineup where that had Garland, Mitchell, and Craig Porter Jr. all playing together, and that is too small. You need somebody else there, a little bit of height, but I mean, we do have to talk about, Jalen Tyson, Naquan Tomlin making huge leaps this year.
So when it comes to, I guess, the next couple games for the Cavs, like you mentioned, they are currently playing the 76ers, but they also play them again on Friday. We also see the Cavs are set to play the Thunder and the Hornets. Out of those 3 games, I mean, what has the best storyline in your eyes to you, Jack?
Honestly, I would say it's these Philly games coming up, because, I mean, they played earlier in the season. They won 132 to 121, but that was following a 46-point performance from Donovan Mitchell, and the Sixers didn't have Embiid or Paul George. You've got Tyrese Maxey been playing at an all-star level. VJ Edgecombe's been great. Embiid's been playing at a pretty high level. This is a need-to-win game. The biggest thing they need is, they need to use the fact that Embiid is a little less mobile this year. Their pick and rolls that they run should be able to work, especially when you've got people like, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, who can start and stop very fast. Use them with your bigs, Allen, Mobley. You capitalize on these screens, and then the rebounding. I was looking through and I saw something. Embiid grabs 9+ rebounds in 50% of games where he plays 30 minutes or more. And, his minutes have just been steadily increasing.
Yeah, well said for all the stats. Yes, the Thunder game is against a better team, but when you think of everything of just competing with the teams in your own conference, that Philly game probably is more important.
I would say overall it's definitely the Thunder game, but I think it's, at least as of right now, it's these Philly games. They need to win them. They need to start trying to climb up the conference, especially this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. They got to take it one game at a time. So now for our final segment of tonight, we're bringing it back. It's Upset Watch. Guys, we stunk last year. We were like 11. We were like 11 for 56 last year.
Come on. I had a good streak of 3 or 4 good ones.
You did have the best upset last year. But
you did, but I cancel you out by not hitting on a single pick.
Okay,
I don't think I got a single one.
Fair.
So now for our first selection, we have all 4 of the people at the table have basketball selections. So we'll start with the one that is a pro game. Jack, you like the game in Berlin. Who do you got?
I do. I've got the Grizzlies over the Magic. They are 5.5-point underdogs. This matchup is, and I was kind of digging in, and this matchup is just fascinating. Memphis averages 114 points per game, while Orlando gives up 115. Vice versa, Memphis allows 116, Orlando scores 116. Neither team really has home court advantage because they're playing in Berlin. I think if Memphis can have at least one other player get hot or one player get hot, I think they can take this game.
Now to go to the college selection, Simon, I got to start with you because you have something pretty close by. Who do you got?
Come on, man. I'm tired of seeing these Red Hawks be undefeated. So I've got Buffalo, 8.5-point underdogs, taking that win on Saturday. I just think this is a Buffalo team that is probably frustrated at this point, who, yeah, just a week ago were sitting undefeated at the MAC to start the year and thought they were maybe more towards the top than what their rankings show right now. So, yeah, they want to cement a spot, and what better team to do it against than the only undefeated mid-major remaining?
Connor, who do you got?
So last year, one of my crazier hits was a Coastal Carolina pick over Marshall. So I'm going straight back to my roots, and instead of football, we're going men's basketball. That is legitimately my only pick. Shout out to
Because you picked it last year?
Yep, that's it. What was the point guard's name? Beetle?
Yep.
Yeah.
Joshua Beetle.
Joshua Beetle. Seems like a real neat guy. So shout out to Coastal Carolina. Are they up right now?
7.5 minutes in the first half. They're up 22-15.
Let's go.
All right, so I guess by the time of this recording, you'll know if Connor is right or not. And then for our final selection, we kind of talked about this team bouncing back, but Kasey, you still think this team's going to continue their slump. Who do you got in your upset watch selection?
Yeah, I'm taking Washington over number 4 Michigan right now. It's 12.5. They're playing tonight at 10:30. I was mad about the Penn State game. I'm happy for Wisconsin. Hopefully Michigan just kind of stays in their slump.
Kasey's going for vengeance. She's going out for blood.
Man.
I respect it.
So now for our outro of the show, of course, we got to go into our SportsBeat awards. And for our game of the week, we're going to go with women's basketball as they invite Northern Illinois this Saturday for a conference bout, which includes a 2000s theme for attendance for the fans. So expect some fashion, expect some, maybe some Nelly or some 50 Cent. I know Jack will be there, right?
I should, yeah, actually.
So then our SportsBeat player of the week, we got Jackson Paveletzky once again making a reappearance. Like was mentioned earlier, he was named the MAC Offensive Player of the Week or the MAC Player of the Week. He's averaged nearly 22 points per game in his last couple games, 7 assists, 4 rebounds, a steal. I mean, he's done so consistently. He's led the Bobcats offensively and is now our first Player of the Week in 2026. So congrats, Pav. So that's going to be it. Thank you for listening to SportsBeat once again on WOUB. I'm your host, Jake Collins, and with me at the table was
Jack Zwiezinski.
Conor Mallonn.
Simon Lupfer.
Kasey Hill.
You can listen to us on WOUB 1340 AM radio at 9 p.m. on Thursdays, or search us online at woub.org/listen. You can also find us on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And don't forget, follow us on our Instagram at SportsBeat WOUB. We'll see you next week. This has been SportsBeat.